started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and now...
That's right. We are live.
The ghost faced himself, Brandon Tanev.
This isn't like the start of last season when it was just, it looked like the Canucks were just a beer league team not playing defense at all. And just before Chris goes, no, I'm kidding, Chris, you can actually go now.
no, hold on.
We have to get more time for coming on late. So.
I still had, hold on. All right. Chris, go, and then I got something else to say at the end.
So, an elf and a midget in 2 back-to-back games. He's definitely on a friendship tour for sure.
Think, oh yeah, I'm okay with him being, the 6'7" defenseman. No! He is a AHL defenseman right now.
Look, Jean-Guy, don't mind Devin, okay? We all struggle with Devin, so you know.
Well, hello, everyone. Good afternoon in Calgary. Good morning if you're in BC. Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com, Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com, Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com, Shifts and Pucks, as well as subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. It is Game 7. It is the Calgary Flames and the Dallas Stars. The Calgary Flames' first Game 7 since 2008 when they played in San Jose. This is Calgary's first home game, Game 7 since 2006 when they lost 3-0 to the Anaheim Ducks. And the Flames are looking to win their first home Game 7 since 1989 when they won the Stanley Cup. So lots on the line here. Dallas, of course, has been to the final a couple years ago. They beat Calgary on that route. And as Rick Bowness said today, to quote the late, great former Flame coach Bob Johnson, it's a great day for hockey. Isn't it, Sean?
Oh, it's a great day for hockey. We got some great hockey last night. And let's hope for another one. Then maybe we can see some overtime, Game 7 overtime in one of the games tonight.
Dan, hello.
Hi. Sorry, I think I'm lagging a little bit.
Oh, you're good. You're good. We have been, well, if all I can say is just for my own personal stress level, if it is overtime, I hope it's Pittsburgh Rangers just for my own sanity. But, if it's in overtime and the Flames win, it's fine. But, we're going to start. We didn't get a chance to get into Game 6, and our friend Jean-Guy asked about Devin. He's busy, but he does ask a fair question. It is a fair question for Devin. I feel for him. We'll get into that a little bit later. We'll recap what happened yesterday. But we're going to start by recapping what happened on Friday. I'm getting my days mixed up. Game 6, the Flames came in with the opportunity to close it out. They had a great first period. If you wanted to use the term goal lead, that would be a good argument. It would be a good term for that. But Roope Hintz found a way to beat Jacob Markstrom when Joe Pavelski was bothersome in the net. And the Stars took a 1-0 lead. They took a 2-0 lead. And then the Flames had to fight back. And then Miro Heiskanen, who I just don't think a lot of people are giving enough credit as a top elite defenseman in the National Hockey League because he hasn't played the games this year. But people forgot that. He scored to make it 3-2. And the Flames just simply could not get that third one. And they did a lot of things wrong. First period, they were great, Dan, but I thought second and third period, that was Dallas deserved the win.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, we've seen this from the Flames, I'd say, in a lot of games this series, that they're not coming out and playing 60 minutes. They're playing either they're starting well or they're ending well, but they're not putting a 60-minute game together. In that first period, Calgary had an 8-2 lead and high danger chances 5-on-5. I thought Dallas definitely came out in the second and put some pressure on Calgary. And that third, yeah, you're right. It was Dallas who deserved to win. And I think in order for the Flames to take this series in Game 7, they're going to have to put on a 60-minute effort, and everyone on the team is going to have to show up.
Yeah, and they have to. Dallas has done a good job at sort of mucking it up and making the Flames play more the style of the game they want to play as opposed to what the Flames should be playing. And if the Flames can find a way to sort of dictate the style and tempo of the game more towards them, and especially more towards the style and tempo of that top line, then that'll go a long way to helping them win the game and give us what we want. Give us a Battle of Alberta in the second round.
Yeah. As I just adjust my camera here, I guess to me, they, where do we start? I guess we got to simply start. I guess the easiest way, we'll get to the defense in a second here, but I guess we got to start with the top line. Lindholm, Gaudreau, and Tkachuk. I think, let me start here. I don't think Johnny has been bad. I think Johnny's been good. That sounds like a song, and it is. Johnny's been okay. I think you could clearly see he's getting frustrated. Mr. Lindholm, I think, has been fine offensively. The face-off dot, as much as everyone is giving credit to Jake Ottinger, and it's well-deserved, the other area that Dallas has dominated throughout the series is the face-off circle, and it's not been close.
For sure. I think, Kevin, that's underappreciated, that Dallas is winning so many face-offs and controlling the puck for so long because of it.
Yeah. We looked back on the game 3 and game 5. Michael Backlund won 3 face-offs in the third period of game 5 that helped them get that win. Dallas in game 6 was not worried about icing the puck because they knew they were going to win the face-off. They just simply, they had the face-off circle has been such an advantage for them that they're not worried about having who they're out on the ice with, because they're controlling the play at the start of the play. They have the puck first, and so it's easier for them to play their game, and the Flames are chasing. To me,
yeah, the face-offs are something that can get a little bit overthunk by teams when they're trying to put together a roster, especially for regular season. But come playoffs, when matchups matter and controlling the play matters a lot more, especially once you get later into a series and later into a game, especially a tight game, it's huge, and you have to find a way to not get beat as much as the Flames have in the face-off dot, because you have to at least make it a coin toss. So you have so the team, the opposing team, isn't afraid to ice. It is afraid to ice the puck a little bit more than, as you were saying there, Kev, that Dallas was.
Yeah. And the other I tweeted this, and I think that this is one thing that I think the Flames, as much as Sean Monahan took a lot of criticism for his play this year in particular, and the fact that he went to a fourth line role, I think they miss him in this series, because I think he is a good face-off guy, and that they just don't have, like, Lindholm is trying, Backlund's trying, Yarncrow is a center, and Trevor Lewis is playing center, but I don't think they're good at face-offs. Having Sean Monahan there would have been a difference to me. As Dan is frozen. Or is Dan behind? Dan. Oh, here he is. Okay.
For sure, I agree. Yeah, I agree about Monahan. I think that, for all the struggles he had this year, Monahan is, I would say, outside of Lindholm and Backlund, really the natural center that we have on this team, and a guy who should be able to win those faceoffs, and does night after night. So I think you're right, Kevin. They really miss him, if for no other reason than he can control that puck off the faceoff.
Yeah. Sean, from your perspective, do you think that the Flames should have played Adam Ruzicka or Ryan Carpenter?
Over who?
If you would have went back to 12-6, the obvious choice would have been Brett Ritchie. Although Michael Stone has been the Mike Commodore of this series for sure, and he's been fine. But just in terms of the face-off dot, and I know Ryan Carpenter hasn't been a fit, but I don't know why. I've been a little bit surprised we didn't see Adam Ruzicka.
I think that's if you're going to replace anyone on it, I think it is Brett Ritchie. And as we were talking about with the importance of face-off, especially later in the game, you need to be able to win the faceoffs. But would Sutter be trusting Ruzicka with any sort of key faceoffs or Carpenter? I don't think so. So maybe maybe we should. I think it would be good to have him in there, but I just don't know if Sutter would have utilized either of them properly.
We know Sutter's penchant towards veterans, and I think that's part of the reason that we haven't seen Ruzicka. And also, I would say that Ruzicka really hasn't shown anything that the other guys in the bottom six haven't. I mean, he's a good NHLer, but is he better than Yarncroke? Maybe not. Is he better than Lewis? Well, Lewis has shown he's looking great this round. So who do you take out unless you're going to take one of the defensemen out? I think, I think he's just odd man out right now and doesn't have that unique place in the lineup. I think as soon as you get a forward who's hurt, I would put in Ruzicka over Carpenter. But it's just, I think, a matter of who comes out right now. And the only way I see Ruzicka going in is if somebody starts to look bad in round two.
Fair.
The other thing is whether like Tanev's probably playing because the guy is a warrior, but man, I rewatched that and that's a hip flexor groin issue that he's probably dealing with now, and that's just gonna hurt. But if he can't go, then you're either still going 7 defensemen, you're bringing in a Connor Mackey or a Yusuf Alamaki, or you're going back to 12 and 6. And that will open up a spot for a Ruzicka or Carpenter.
Yeah, I guess that's we'll save the long conversation. Again, we'll go to Tanev here because that's, to me, it's a big loss. If he's playing, he's not at 100%. We know that. We know that Tanev, if God love him, will do whatever he can to play. But that didn't. You're right. It didn't look good. And I don't know if he's playing tonight. I'm at 20% certain he's playing. I'm preparing my mind to say that he's not going to play tonight. I don't know where you're at, Dan.
Yeah, I would probably say, I mean, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. I think even if Tanev is hurt and he can do it, even if it's putting cortisone shots or whatever into whatever's hurt, I think he's going to try and find a way. And I think, he's probably telling himself, I got to help get this team to round 2, just like everyone else does. I think if he's out, I think it's going to be a huge blow for the Flames. And then you can't do 7 like Sean was mentioning. I mean, Sean, bringing up Mackey or Valimaki, they're in Stockton playing playoff hockey. They're probably pretty beat up and need some time to get here as well. So you're going to have to ice 6 defensemen and have Stone as your 6 and throw a forward back in. I think it's your only choice at this point. But I don't know if I'm at 20%, Kevin. I'd probably say 50-50 at this point. I haven't talked to Tanev to know, where he's at with the injury, but I think if there's any possible way he's out there, even if he's on, third pair minutes and they just decrease his minutes, I think he's going to find a way to be out there if he can.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, didn't Daryl say earlier this year he could sew someone up in about 5 minutes? He's got some cortisone shots somewhere. He does. Here, Chris, you're a horse.
Well, that was for a laceration to the head. This is a little bit different.
Oh, Daryl's got something for that, though. He does.
It's I'm probably at 70-30 just because I know Tanev is a warrior. I know he'll if he feels like is there any way he can play, he'll be out there. And then you probably still are. Yeah, you're still going 11 and 7, and which will allow you to bump down Tanev's minutes a little bit, but you're still going to need him if he's playing. You're still going to want him playing because that means you're going to be relying on the Zadorov Branson pairing a little bit more because is Shillington Stone a pair that you're going to be okay being out there with too much a lot? I don't think so. But and then the other thing is that the top pair of Hannafin and Anderson need to have a better game than they did last game. They definitely struggled a little. They struggled and were on the ice for more more in the defensive zone than they have been in for most of the season.
You know, Sean, you said you're not sure if you want to rely on Shillington and Stone. I thought Stone was the best defenseman out there last game. I mean, he got, a goal. He got a good chance. I would, at this point, put my faith in him in more than I would in injured Tanev, I think, and make Tanev that number 7 rotating in and out. I think that Stone has exceeded expectation and deserves to probably at least get a look at that second pair spot tonight.
So you'd go Shillington, Stone, Zadorov, Gabranson?
At least to start with, yeah, and then I would rotate Tanev in and out because I want to restrict his minutes.
If you can, ideally you would want Tanev, if he's playing, penalty kill for sure, and maybe, yeah, and spill him in. That's where I could see that, but man.
I mean, if this was game 4-5, I don't think Tanev plays. But I think Chris feels like the rest of this team, we got to do what we got to do to get through this round. We'll deal with round 2 when we get there. But play if you can to help the team get to the Battle of Alberta.
Do we want him to go Matthew or Zadorov here? Zadorov is probably the quicker conversation.
Sure, let's do that.
Okay, so let me read what NHL player safety said about the hit, and then we'll get into the hit. After thoroughly reviewing all available video and following a telephone hearing today, the Department of Player Safety has determined that there will be no supplemental discipline assessed to Calgary's Nikita Zadorov for his hit against Dallas's Luke Glendening, who's questionable, by the way, tonight. While there was significant head contact on this play, Zadorov took a proper angle of approach, did not extend outward or upward, and hit through Glendening's core. Therefore, under Rule 48.1, the head contact was determined to be unavoidable. I got to be honest with you, I was expecting a suspension. I was critical of Darnell Nurse and his headbutt with Philip Deneau. My criticism here of Zadorov is quite simply you can't, in a game 6, put yourself in a situation where, as Tyler has always told us, don't put yourself in a situation where the referee has to make a decision. And in this case, Department of Player Safety had to make a decision. That's what I don't like. But I was surprised he wasn't suspended for 1 game. I'm surprised he's available for tonight.
The way I looked at it is, I thought it was a headshot. I thought it deserved that 5 in a game headshot penalty that we've seen called a lot. And had he gotten that, I would say that was probably enough because it was early enough in the game. When he didn't get that, I was 100% expecting at least a 1-game suspension. But man, spin the wheel of justice and see what happens with the player safety.
The NHL wheel of justice. Do we actually want to spin it?
Well, Daryl made a good
You
point. No one has talked.
Names what happened, and you spin the wheel, and you see where you end up.
Yeah. Well, Daryl made a good point about the slew foots. No, nothing's been called with that. So, I mean, he made a good point there. But
I know everyone makes those arguments.
Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I know everyone makes those arguments, but they haven't called this and haven't called that, and I've done it in the past, and I'll do it in the future. But it's one of those ones where it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, it's like Leafs fans complaining about like the jersey hold in one game, and then the interference pick in another, and it's just again the lack of consistency or missed calls are frustrating, but it's, I don't know. I looked at that hit, and it was at an angle that I don't think was through the core enough to be considered a clean hit for me. But I've thought I've gotten it before, and then we'll get something like this where I'm completely mystified as to what is and isn't a headshot, what isn't goalie interference or whatever. Like, it's just I just don't know the standards a lot of the time now.
I agree with you. It looked to me like it was probably a headshot, but at the same time, if we look at this as Flames fans, can you imagine if we're down 2 of our 6 defensemen? Like with what's happened to Tanev, I'm thankful that the hockey gods have ruled that way, and that's where the wheel of justice spun. Because if we're without Tanev and without Zadorov, I think you're really hard pressed to make it through Game 7. So I think while we can question it, as Flames fans, we should, praise Scorch that this is the way it came to be.
Praise Scorch, yes, fair, yes, very fair. And even if you won a Battle of Alberta, for those wanting that,
That's all I want. Like I said, we're already getting Battle of Florida in the Florida Man series. I now want a hockey war on both sides of the border here.
Just so you guys know, I spun the wheel of justice, and it landed on 2-game suspension.
Oh.
Is there the playoff mode's off though?
Oh, there we go. Okay, we got to turn playoff mode on. Let's spin it again.
Oh, one game.
One game.
I was about to say, like, this literally was like, is the Brian Burke playoff adjustment on there yet, or?
Yeah. Yeah, but then the other player that needs, there's a few players that we need to get into that need to have a better series, but one in particular, this is, and I will say this with Johnny too, but I'm going to specifically start here. This is Matthew Tkachuk's most important game of his career, flat out. This is a guy we had a conversation about should he wear the C a couple of seasons ago when the Flames played the same Dallas Stars in the bubble, and Matthew Tkachuk was upstairs, and he threw things around in the press box up there or wherever they were in Edmonton. Frustrated he wasn't on the ice able to do it. He's had one good game in this series, but he has been generally invisible other than a couple of fights. I thought his breakaway attempt in Game 5 was less than stellar. I thought his play in Game 6, he had one shot on goal in that game, was less than stellar. This is a guy that, we've called about the mercenary. He's about the money, all of this. There's a bunch of things that we've called and said about Matthew Tkachuk. But if he is to be the person, if he is all that he is claimed to be, and I know that there's going to be some people that are going to talk about him being hurt, and I think that there's a legitimate possibility he's hurt, but he's got to step up tonight. It's just that simple. If he wants the money, if he wants this notoriety, if he wants all of the things that Matthew Tkachuk feels that he deserves and is entitled to, he has to damn well show up tonight. Otherwise, he can get the fuck out. Because if he does not show up tonight, this is what Matthew Tkachuk is telling me. You are all talk, no action. He has to show up. Quite simple. Anything less than 100% effort from him is absolutely unacceptable.
And I know find Klingberg and fight him again. Yeah, like I'm looking at his playoff stats here. He's got in 21 games, he's got 9 points. And that's now over 4 seasons. He got no points in 4 games in the 17 playoffs, 3 in 5 in 19 playoffs, 2 in 6 in the bubble, and now 4 assists in 6 games in this series. So
Zach Kassian should not have more goals than Matthew Tkachuk. I'm sorry. That is absolutely seriously unacceptable.
The big change between those seasons and this season, Sean, he's a 100-point guy this season.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right? He's got to show up. And Kevin, I think you're right. I mean, if I'm a GM and I'm looking to hire somebody in the offseason, I'm not going to pay a bunch of money for a guy that I'm paying money to that can't finish in the playoffs. I think we're seeing Tkachuk, trying to be Lucic and go out there and fight everybody and hit everybody. And he needs to remember he's a top-line guy, and he needs to be producing offensively. And if he is hurt, I think it's the coaching staff's job to, move him to a second line or put someone else on that line and rest him a little bit. I think that it goes both ways there. I'm not saying he's not hurt, but at the same time, it's the NHL playoffs. Everybody's probably dinged up, banged up, that sort of thing. You've got to either find a way to work through it or get off the ice in a way. And yeah, I mean, if he can't do it tonight, I think there's going to have to be a long, hard question about, do we bring him back?
I remember having this thought about the players like Tkachuk, when I'm back in the Canucks heyday with Burrows and all that. They play to be successful. They have to play on the edge every game. And then when playoffs come, everyone ramps up. And it can take time for those players to learn how to ramp their game up a notch again without going over. You see that with Nazem Kadri struggled with that over the years as well. And I think that's something that Tkachuk struggled with, trying to figure out how he can ramp his game up without going over the edge and still being being a effective player. And I don't think the way the Flames as a whole have played has helped them in this series in terms of how they just continue to try and just play the muck it up style that Dallas is wanting to play. As good as the Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson, and Joe Pavelski line is, the Flames still have the best line in this series when they're on in Lindholm, Gaudreau, and Tkachuk, and they have not taken over a game yet, like we know that they have done in the past. And this is a game where if they can take over, that writes them into the history books here in Calgary, and they can build off of it. But if they don't, you now have Gaudreau and Tkachuk with needing new contracts, who are both coming off 100-point seasons, 40-goal seasons, and both you haven't gotten out of the first round, and in a flat cap system and a hard cap system, that really starts to make you think what's the next move for this team.
I think in that case, Sean, you could justify as the general manager bringing one of them back, not two of them back. And I think that's going to be the big question, is who do they go with? You mentioned Tkachuk having to learn where that edge is, and I think that's been part of his struggle his whole career. But at some point, how much rope do we give him to learn that? I mean, he's a top-line guy on this team. To me, if you're on the top line, you've got to know that. And I think we saw him struggle with that last year, of how far was too far and that sort of thing. And I feel like he's done better with that this year. I think for Matt, play your playoff style the same way you played the regular season. You don't need to ramp it up that much. You did well in the regular season. Just pretend this is game 89 or whatever game it is, and just play it like the regular season.
Yeah, and I think we'll go back to that brouhaha in Nashville before the season ended. And I said, and I know Devin was a little skeptical of the take I had in terms of making sure that you don't cross the line. And unfortunately, I think Tkachuk, at least for the first few games of this series, got lost in the emotion, got lost in all that, and he hasn't been able to get back onto it, get back on his game here. And I was surprised when we were looking up the stats of the individual scoring stats of the players before the podcast. I was like, he's got 4. He's tied for second in points of this on this team in this series, but it's only 4 assists. He hasn't scored a goal, and I'm surprised he's got that many.
Lewis
because
has more goals than Tkachuk does.
Yeah, well, Tkachuk has 0.
Has more goals than Tkachuk does.
He needs to step up. I said this before too, like throughout the season. If he wants to be paid the way he feels he's worth, and he's going to play hardball because that's what they do. He's got a lead, and he hasn't done that yet in this series.
I think Tkachuk is most useful to the Flames when he's drawing penalties, when he's making somebody else mad and they're starting to come after him and he's drawing that penalty. But this season or this series, it feels like he's taking the penalty too often. He spent far too much time in the box. And when one of your top, point getters, your 100-point guy sitting in the penalty box, no wonder the Flames are struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
Kev, you're saying he's got to show up for you tonight. What do you think the chance is that he comes out big and say gets a hat trick? Not the Gordie Howe variety, the regular variety.
I don't know. I honestly I think it's interesting. You go back to game 5, Daryl put him on the third line. There were times he was playing with Yarncrow. I wonder how much we see Backlund, Tkachuk, and Mangiapane tonight, and I wonder at some point here. Look, Tyler Toffoli has gotten chances. I know that the stat sheet says no goals, but for the love of God, Jake Ottinger has goalied him a couple of times for sure. He's robbed him a couple of times. I think Tyler. I wonder if they go Lindholm, Gaudreau, Toffoli for a bit of a time, and they go back.
If I was the Jolly Rancher, I'd go into this game putting Toffoli on the first line and moving Tkachuk down to the second line.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I fully expect another 11-7 setup anyway, so you have that ability to juggle things. I think that would be something to look at. Backlund and Tkachuk have had success in the past together, and Backlund's looked really good for the Flames in this series too.
Yeah,
and I think if you're trying to get Tkachuk going, that second line has more puck movers. That if they say move it to Matty, let him put it home. I think that you're distributing your scoring a little bit better there. I think if you move Toffoli up to line 1, it's all right. We got two puck. Well, we got Toffoli as our puck mover, and then put it to either Lindholm or Johnny, and let them try to put it home.
Yeah. That's to me that might be the way to go tonight. And the Stars have split up Ben and Seguin, and then put them back together, and then put Robertson in a couple of different places. I think the Flames will have to do the same thing. So yeah, and I'm not saying that just simply in some cases because of matchups, but I just think in terms of flow of play, I just think it might work a little better, and it'll allow if Matthew's in this muck it up mood, I think he's going to be more effective doing that with Michael Backlund, because I think it's more expected there. Where with Lindholm and Gaudreau, it's about goals, and it's not only about goals with Daryl Sutter. I understand that, but the offense goes through that first line, and I think the way that Toffoli is skating with Johnny's passing ability, I think he could get Toffoli set up on the right spot. So,
Tkachuk when he's on. He is mucking it up, but it's an effective grind and cycle in the offensive zone, and he's not doing that right now. And that's when that line's good too, because he's the one who creates turnovers and with a good forecheck. Toffoli can do that as well, but I think he's a little smarter in that, and maybe that is what they need to do to maybe try and free up some space for Lindholm and Gaudreau to work their magic as well.
And the one thing I haven't seen a lot from the Flames is a guy in front of the net. And when we put him there, Dallas is easy lifting our stick or moving our guy away from the net. I think if you've got Matty there who likes to muck it up a little bit, say, Matt, stand in front of the net. Do not let them move you. That is your new job. Someone will get you the puck, but you need to be there. And I think there's been a number of times we've seen a guy in front, Dallas just lifting the stick and taking the puck and going the other way. So maybe it's just giving Matthew that, this is your job. Stand there and wait for rebounds.
Yeah. Daryl Sutter has talked about this a bit, and maybe it's an interesting question, because I feel like from the Flames fan base, I think from a lot of people's perspective, I think that this is a bit of we had it at 6. Devin had it at 5. I don't think we were expecting 7, but we're here at 7 now. But Daryl Sutter has said it's tough to win that 4th game, and the team hasn't had the experience of getting that 4th win. And we have Dallas, who has that experience. They've been to the Cup final a couple years ago. They beat the Flames. How much does that play into this?
I'm wondering if that plays into it. And let me go on a bit of a tangent with this. I wonder if the Flames are going to be motivated knowing that Edmonton won. I wonder if there's a little bit more motivation now coming into this, saying, you know what, we want to go on and we want that Battle of Alberta. We want to crush these guys and go crush Edmonton. And I wonder if LA won last night, if you would have that same motivation. I think that there's some external factors there. But Kevin, going back to your question, I think that Daryl's onto something. I mean, we don't have a lot of guys who have that experience. It's tough to put it away in 4. I think, that's why there are 7 games. And I didn't think it would go 7, but in some ways I'm not surprised. I think the big question, though, is can they make no mistakes tonight? In the past, said, we'll get them next time. We'll get them next time. And I wonder if that was in the Flames' mind as well, that, let's get them next time. There is no more next time. So can they get up the way they need to for the Game 7, even though they're a young team? They're out of excuses.
And yeah, as I said, I mentioned it multiple times. You'll see it all over social media, all over sports radio, all that. Everyone wants Battle of Alberta. Mm-hmm. That is the series we want. We don't want Dallas versus Edmonton. We want Calgary versus Edmonton, and I do think that you might be onto something there. They know that Edmonton's waiting in the next round, and they want that.
Yeah,
and I hope that helps give them a little more focus today, a little more focus tonight, and they can come out and put up a good game. Because, if they don't, like we talked about the Gaudreau and Tkachuk questions, but that whole roster will be under the scrutiny of Daryl Sutter and Brad Treliving if they don't find a way to win tonight.
I mean, just like we all have that one friend in Edmonton who won't let us hear the end of this, I think the Flames know that'll be the case too. And we want to go beat Edmonton. We want to take them on and beat them, and we're better than this. And I wonder if that's really more the motivation than Game 7.
And listen, if the Flames lose tonight, Oiler fans are going to be all over Calgary on Twitter. Like as Heidi said, the Oiler fans are going to be smug about this. And listen, there's going to be
Mike won the Stanley Cup if that happens. They don't need to go any further.
Yeah. There's going to be the Mike Smith comments. There's going to be the Connor McDavid comments. Oiler and I'll dare say it. I think if the Flames lose tonight, I think Brad Treliving, this is the most trouble Brad Treliving will be in. He will be in Kyle Dubas pressure territory, rightly or wrongly.
Kevin, I think that he's done his job this year. I don't think it'll be him that's the scapegoat. I don't think it'll be the coach. I think they're going to have to start looking at the players in the ice.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too.
I mean, if you look at the GM, what did he do wrong this year? He put the right roster on the ice. The coach coached them the right way. I think you're going to have to look at, do we bring Gaudreau and Mangiapane and all these guys back, because this same core is not produced. Sorry, Sean.
It's this. Yeah, well, it's the same thing. I'm viewing this, if this happens with the Flames and they don't get through, I'm viewing it very similar to with Toronto in terms of it. I think this is more on the players than the management. I think this is more on them not stepping up and because they've been put in a position to succeed. Maybe they need a little more offense up front, but that's a tweak. That's not a massive issue with how this team was constructed.
And
I think that
if they let go of one of those guys like we talked about, they're going to have a whole bunch of money to go find that scorer.
Mm-hmm. But I think there will be Treliving's hot seat will be the hottest it's ever been. But I don't think I still think he'd get at least one more year. I think Daryl and Treliving's contracts both run out
at the same time. So they got one more year after this.
One more year after this, right? So I think it's basically you go out and you fix this, and if we don't feel that you fixed it halfway through the season, that's when the seat will get really hot for Treliving. But if they don't win tonight, I think it's still his. He still has the keys to go in and make the changes that are needed.
I'd be upset. I think it was a cop-out if the answer at the end of the season is, well, we got rid of the GM and, away we go. I think that's the wrong move, and I think that's a cop-out for the president of hockey ops, whoever would make that move.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a significant game in franchise history. The
difference between Treliving and Dubas. Kevin, you mentioned Dubas. I mean, they took on the champions and lost, right? You got to be the man to beat the man, and they weren't the man, as Ric Flair says. Like, they lost the champs. No shame in that. But they were not number one. The Flames were number one here, I think. Yep. And we don't mean to make this Toronto versus Calgary. Calgary was in a better position going into this series.
Look, we said that anything less than a conference final berth is a failure. Like, that's what we said it coming in. So,
yeah, the Flames are the odds-on favorite in this series, as opposed to the Leafs were the favorite going into that series based off of the regular season records, but but they were going up against the two-time defending champs.
I think if Calgary was playing Colorado, we would have, run into similar problems.
Well, first, I think first rounds are always tough too, right? I mean, and we saw 6 of the series went 7 games. So other than Florida, Washington, 5 of the series went because St. Louis. Wait, Matt, get my calculator out. St. Louis went 6, Florida went 6, Colorado went 4. So 5 of the series went 7 games. So first rounds are tough. Pretty much. I mean. It's damn hard to win in this league. It really is.
My whole issue right now with the Flames is that if I'm going to put it again, I've said this for a while in this series is I don't think they've played. I think they've let Dallas dictate how this series is played more than dictating it themselves. So that's on the players and that's on the coaching staff more than it is on Brad Treliving.
Yeah. And and their best players have not always been their best players. And, and that's,
I think there's only so much coaching you can do once that whistle blows, start the game. At some point, you've got to trust the players do their job. And, I mean, Daryl can't just grab somebody's stick and say, fine, I'll do it myself and go out there and get it done. If he can coach all he wants, but if the players don't want to listen to him, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
We do have enough Sutters that are employed that maybe you could just say, we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm Matthew Tkachuk. You look a lot like Daryl Sutter. Matthew, why are you look so much younger, Daryl, on the bench there. Yeah. But
tinted visors, no one will notice.
Yeah. And look, and from Dallas's perspective, Rupe Hintz got it going in Game 6, but I don't think that their top players have necessarily been their top players. To me, the 2 best players in this series for both sides has been Ottinger and Markstrom, and I think maybe the other edge is at the faceoff circle, and the other third edge I would say is Dallas's 6 pair of D has played better than Calgary's 6 pair and D in general, or 7 pair of D. I think Miro Heiskanen has been. I think Heiskanen, when he's been on, he's played really well. Esa Lindell has had a quiet series, but he's been effective, and I think Hannafin and Anderson have had their moments in this series. I think that's been the other edge.
Heiskanen's been good. Lindell's been quiet, but that's good for a player like Lindell. Like if you're noticing Lindell, it's either for he's throwing big checks and being in scrums, or he's getting beat. So he hasn't been a part of the scrums too much, but yeah, he's been quiet enough that I haven't really felt that he's been an issue type deal. And even players like a Yanni Hakanpää played solid enough for the Stars, and he's a sort of a no-namer type defenseman on that not many people would know.
Do you guys feel like maybe the Flames went into this one underestimating Dallas? Like, I think, when you look at the way they've been playing, it felt like maybe they came out thinking, we can get away with maybe 80%, of our effort level or whatever. And Dallas, maybe surprised them. And now they're trying to figure out how do we ramp back up?
I think that they were prepared for Nashville. I think they were expecting Nashville. And I think the whole idea of Dallas was a bit of a surprise to them, and they weren't ready in that sense. Because you look back at that playoff, that game on that Tuesday against Nashville, they were ready for Nashville. They were trying to establish that. So I wouldn't say they were underestimated. I think that they just were ill prepared, and I think it's tough. One of the advantages of fighting for your playoff lives or for your playoff position late in the season, as opposed to having home ice advantage, is you're already in playoff mode. You're already desperate. And the Flames need, when you're in first place, you need to ramp it up a bit before you get going. I think you saw that even with Florida a little bit too. Florida had trouble ramping it up because of that too. And I think that that's the other issue with Calgary is it takes a while to get going.
I think there might have been a little bit of underestimating. I don't think it's that big, and I think it's a combination with what you're talking about there too, Kev. I think they were kind of expecting Nashville, and they were kind of hoping for Nashville because it would have been more emotional and and a little more rambunctious. Well, this has been a lot more of a chess match. And I think that's why you saw Chuck trying to go after Klingberg and start things there and try to create that emotion. But no one, Dallas didn't really necessarily follow. Yeah, Klingberg's been in it, Raffl's been in it, but for the most part, the rest of the team's been staying out of it as much as they can. But they've been still mucking it up and just grinding it up and trying to make it more of a chess match as opposed to a rodeo for the Jolly Rancher.
Yeah.
And, I think that, and when I'm talking about underestimated, I guess maybe even more Ottinger. Like, do you think they came into this thinking Ottinger's going to be easier to solve than he has? And I think no matter how you look at this series, you got to give Jake credit. Being a rookie and doing what he's doing, I don't think that anyone would have expected that kind of goaltending from the Dallas Stars with Jake Ottinger starting. He's
doing his best Bubble Demko impression for sure.
Nashville's wondering why couldn't our backups give us that?
I mean, Ingram did do a damn good job for one game.
Yeah, yeah.
I do think maybe there was a little bit of okay, we're not facing off against a UC Saros or a goaltender of that.
Potentially seeing Riddick again and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just this also ran Jake Ottinger, who he's been one of the more touted goalie prospects since he was drafted too, but he hadn't stepped up and become a starter yet. This is his coming out party, and it's been I said he's putting on as good a Bubble Demko impression as I think you're going to see.
I just wonder, I'm going to just toss this out there. Do we see him in a Team Canada Olympic jersey?
Ottinger, he's American.
Damn it.
Ottinger's from he was in the, you'll see him in an American jersey for sure.
Well, that's an interesting goaltending dilemma that they're going to have.
Well, by then, in 4 years?
There's a lot of old U.S. goalies, and I think the big question about that too is this. I mean, we've seen in the past when St. Louis went all the way, right? They had a unlikely hero in net, and I'd say that he's cooled down in Binnington. Like, I wonder if Ottinger stays this hot, or if this is kind of his year. And 5 years from now, I look back to, I remember when I was 23 against those Calgary Flames, like. It'll be interesting to see. Is this 1 year, or is this the next great goaltender in the NHL?
Matt Murray?
Yeah.
I'd say every year there's one like that.
And the other thing is, I think there's a lot, again, a lot of it is system and all that too. And I think they're Ottinger's made some good saves, but they've definitely worked a system around. They've been able to work a system around him a little bit. I think the best example of that is Jonathan Quick and the Kings back in their heyday. Like that, they worked a system around how aggressive Jonathan Quick played, and they made sure that there was always one or two players busting their butts back to take away any sort of rebound that Quick would let out, because he'd be done if they didn't. So there's definitely some system there, but I say it's not like he was. The thing with Bennington though is he was like a late round pick. He came in, he developed late, and this is still right on par for how goalies are developing at this point in terms of age and everything for Ottinger. So I think this is more part of his progression, a natural progression than just a one-off season.
Though, on the other side of that, though, to be fair, the Flames have not gotten into his grill enough.
No,
they have not. They need Jake Ottinger to perform a Mike Smith. They need him to find some way to embellish that he has been hit, that he literally has died, and he would get a Academy Award performance. And Ottinger's had a country club. He's had an enjoyable series in that sense. The Flames need to get into his grill.
Kevin, the biggest thing for me is Ottinger's giving up some big, juicy rebounds. The Flames aren't there to get them. And I think in order to win this one tonight, they just need bodies in front of the net. And it might mean, you know what, you got to let go of some of the board play or let the defenseman handle that. But to me, as I said earlier, they're getting in front and Dallas is lifting their sticks. They've got to get in front. They've got to plant their sticks, and they've just got to be ready for those big, juicy rebounds, or you're not going to win.
And I think the defense and the forward are not communicating, because I think I've seen it specifically Shillington. I've seen this specifically with. He is waiting to shoot until a Flame is getting in front of the net, and they're not getting there. They're just simply not getting there. And Michael Stone can cause chaos either way with his shot, right? He can cause chaos for you or against you. And you just got to do.
The other thing I'm noticing with the forwards and the defense is along the boards, when there's a loose puck, the winger and the defenseman are both going for it. Then if Calgary loses it, Dallas has got it, and we got two guys out of position. Like, I think it needs to be, maybe it's, the coach saying, okay, up to the hash marks is the defenseman's job, pass the hash marks to the forward, or whatever they decide on. But we can't have, it reminds me of watching, my 5-year-old nephew play Suns, where the puck goes in the corner and 5 guys go to get it. Now you've got it and no one's ready to receive it. Like, they need to play better positional hockey in the offensive zone.
Yeah. And to me, the other thing I would say too, I think at least for one power play, you got to put Lucic in front of. Just let's plant him in front of the net in the second power play, just for one. Like honestly, just look. He may not score, but you got to get Ottinger and you got to get Dallas thinking defensively. They're not thinking. They are playing with muscle memory right now.
Yeah. And it definitely, I remember just going back to Canucks series versus Chicago, and they would put Dustin Byfuglien in net, and he just would sit on Luongo. Maybe it's time. I think it's that time to make Ottinger's life a living hell. You have to throw Lucic in there. Tell him, even if you take a goalie interference, make Ottinger think. Mm-hmm. Especially if you get an early power play. I think that would be something to think about.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but I think a lot more of that's going to have to happen in the Battle of Alberta in round 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't want to say anything about the Battle of Alberta yet. We're not there. So, with this series, anything else we need to bring up? One other thing I do think we need a Yarncrow or Dubé. I've got to score too. Like, I'm not saying this has to be a 10-4 game, but I know that he wasn't brought in for offense, but I don't think Yarncrow's performed nearly as well as I think he should have. I would not give him a high grade. And Dubé is trying, but he hasn't scored, and he needs to score too.
It's been a low scoring series. You need someone to step up tonight. Ideally, you're going to want it to be the top line, because that will answer questions going into the next round if they can get through there. But if it's not the top line, I think a Dubé, Yarncroke would be good. It's because you want going into Edmonton into the second round. If you get there, it's the depth that's going to make the difference in that series, especially with Leon Draisaitl injured now.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Go ahead,
Kevin. I was just going to say, I want to see a big Tyler Toffoli goal tonight. Like, to me, Toffoli's got to break out. I think Toffoli, you need to see that big goal from him tonight. I'd even say, with the way he's been playing, I think Backlund Coleman's due for one tonight.
Yeah. And just to go back to Matthew, we've criticized Leon. Like, I've been very critical of Leon Draisaitl all season. Sean, you have been critical of Leon Draisaitl all year, but he showed up last night. He showed up in Game 6 and Game 7. Upper body injury, lower body injury, not feeling good. He showed up, and he played very well. So this is another reason where Matthew needs to step up. If Leon Draisaitl is doing this up north, you got to show up. It's just, to me, the most important thing to me, like, all of this needs to happen. I agree with you, but Matthew has to make a step here. He has to. And I'm more passionate about this than Johnny Gaudreau, because I think Johnny Gaudreau has done everything he possibly can in this series. I think he has taken, for as much criticism that Gaudreau has taken over the years of his playoff performance, I think he's taken a huge step this entire year. And I already will say it. If it's between Gaudreau and Tkachuk, I don't think that there's no debate in my mind who you bring back. But that's just me. But
Gaudreau's only as good as the two guys he's playing with, I find. And I think we saw that this year. And, with, I'd say, maybe Lindholm not playing as well and Matthew definitely off his game, I think, if those two can get going, that first line can do some great things.
Yep.
Anything else on this series we need to talk about?
I just want to bring up, if you're a Flames fan, if you're a Flames player, you've got Chris Snow as someone who is someone that you should be trying to win this for. He's got a great thread about how he went 30 years ago. He went to a Game 7, Boston versus Buffalo. Now the Flames have a chance to win a game, as Kevin talked about earlier. The Flames have an opportunity to win a Game 7 at home for the first time in 33 years.
Yep.
And the opportunity to face the provincial rivals, the Edmonton Oilers, for the first time in the playoffs in 31 years. If you don't take this and grab it and run with it.
Yeah.
That being said,
praise scores, let it be done.
That being said, sit back and enjoy. Like, this is Game 7s in playoffs are special. It's something that again, I was watching Steve Dangle talk about it, and he talked about how what was the one or two sort of situations that you commentated to yourself out loud when you were playing street hockey. Game 7 overtime was usually that, right? This is it.
Usually not in round 1, though.
No, usually not in round 1.
Yeah, it's usually the Stanley Cup final, Game 7.
And Kevin, you had me on for the playoffs, and we talked about, the Flames hadn't faced a lot of adversity this year. Well, guess what? Here it is. And I think we get to see, is this team as good top to bottom as we think it is? This team can't be saved by one line. It can't just be Johnny and Matthew and, Elias cleaning up. It's got to be the entire roster. And I think, if I'm Daryl, I'd be going to the dressing room today just looking around and saying, boys, show me you want this. Show me you can do this. Show me your top players in this league. And, then walking out and getting ready to, as you said, go sew up Tanev. Because, I think they've been coached as well as they can. The GM has put the right guys in the ice. Tonight it all comes down to the 18 players and one goaltender dressed in flaming sea jerseys. They either want this or they don't.
Yeah.
And I think if Calgary wants this more, they're going to win it tonight.
Yeah. I agree. That is flat out it. And I'm so many things right now. I really am. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm dreading this. I'm all of it. But bring on 750 Mountain, 650 Pacific, because it's going to be something. It's going to be something we're going to be talking about for a long time, for sure.
I give the Flames credit, though. I mean, if you're going to go out, you want it to be Game 7. I'd rather they go out in Game 7 and they get swept, either make it to round 2 or die trying. And I feel like, we could criticize their game over 7 games, but the fact is they've won 3, right? You're not always going to get the best wins. They've done everything they can to force Game 7. So let's go out in a blaze of glory, or let's win this one.
Yeah.
You have one job tonight. Show up and win.
Yeah.
That's right.
Dan, before we let you go, I wanted to spend a quick second here talking about Mark Giordano. The Leafs lost last night, and he's an unrestricted free agent. He spent so many years in Calgary. He spent part of it in Seattle. Can't help but I wonder. Twitter was abuzz laughing at the Leafs again last night and whatever and all of this about the Leafs. But one guy I felt the hardest for was Mark Giordano. This guy has given. Don't forget Mark Giordano's story. This was a guy that ended up having to play he was undrafted, had to go to Russia. By the way, I think it was Daryl that sent him to Russia, I believe, in a roundabout way. Was it Daryl? I think Daryl was involved in some way.
After the 04 run. I don't think technically by NHL transaction rules, Daryl couldn't send him to Russia. But yeah, I think Daryl was maybe the GM that said, I'm not going to give you a spot in the NHL.
Yeah. Comes back, wins a Marc Messier Leadership Award, wins a Norris Trophy, becomes a captain of the Flames. And, he's an unrestricted free agent. He's 38 years old. Does he come back?
To the NHL or to the Calgary Flames?
To the NHL. I don't think we'll ever see him in a Flames jersey again.
I don't think we see him in a Flames jersey. And his house in Calgary is actually up for sale now, which I think says something about that as well. I think he comes back. I think you look at a lot of guys of Mark's age, and they're not really that productive anymore. I think Mark still has a lot to offer, pending he's 4, 5, 6 in your team. I think if I'm looking around at free agency trying to find a depth defenseman, if he's willing to take depth defenseman money, $1 million, $2 million, $2.5 million, I think he's a great depth defenseman. And I think he's probably got another year in him if a contender wants. I don't think he goes to a non-contender, but I think if a contender is willing to offer him depth money, I think he'll jump on it.
Yeah, it's not every team's looking at him. There's probably a handful of teams at most that he's looking at.
I think if Seattle calls back, he says no, thank you. I think if Tampa Bay calls, he says yes, please.
Yep. I think he'll be looking at a handful of teams looking to find a way to end his career on a high here. I think we'll see him back next season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm kind of leaning it may be Toronto, Tampa, Florida, like a true contender. But I wonder if some of those true contenders may have to pay more money than Toronto. I wonder if Toronto is his number one destination out of all of that. But
I wouldn't be surprised, just because he's an Ontario guy. He's seen what that franchise is about now. So I could see it, but I also it's
Kevin, my prediction on that, I think he goes somewhere else and takes sort of whatever the nice man will offer him to go play in a top market, tries for his cup, and once he's either had that or he doesn't get it, I think then he can make a deal with Toronto to play for league minimum as long as he wants to be there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, Dan, I know you're not 100%. I know you've got other things to do. So at this point, we can let you go and get yourself ready. I don't know if you're doing an optional skate or whatever before the game. Are you podcasting today? Are you waiting until tomorrow? What are you guys going to do?
We are going to wait until tomorrow. We don't want to do a show today. Then the Flames make it to round 2, and being a once-a-week show, we miss, half of the next round. So we will be waiting till tomorrow to do our podcast. You can follow us anywhere, find us anywhere that fine podcasts are found. I made this up because I've been doing the podcast circuit, so it's just easier this week to let everyone know in one place where we are. On social media, facebook.com/Fireside Chat, at Fireside Podcast on Twitter, we're Fireside Chat _podcast on Instagram, and of course our website, firesidechat.ca. You can listen to us. We'll recap this series and knock on wood, praise Scorch. Hopefully also, be looking ahead to what the Flames are going to encounter when they face the Edmonton Oilers.
Yep. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, gentlemen.
We will hopefully have good news at the end of the night. Praise Scorch.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks,
See you
Dan.
later, guys.
See ya. Dan Stevenson, Fireside Chat, as we move ourselves into, as we get ourselves ready for Game 7, get him ready. The Chris Tanev of podcasting, I call him. But let's, at this point, we'll kind of start do the recap. I think we're going to spend most of our time on the Leafs Lightning Oiler Kings series, and we'll start with the Leafs. Actually, sorry, I want to start with sorry, let me correct myself. As much as this has all been about the Toronto Maple Leafs, I want to spend some time praising the 2-time Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning. And as much as nobody is talking about this, that game they played last night, specifically in the third period, was fantastic playoff hockey. There were sticks everywhere. Everywhere there was a Leaf moving a puck, a stick somehow found its way to take it away. They showed why they were Stanley Cup champions. There were a couple of hip cups. Vasilevsky late in the third. I don't know what he was doing. Kind of a lazy little pass there. Hedman's icing. But Anthony Cirelli was phenomenal in the third period. He face-offs. The image of Braden Point, God love Braden Point for giving it a go, but you just knew he couldn't. And just that whole image of the team kind of around him saying that he knew he couldn't go. I almost wonder if Tampa Bay won it there in a sense. It's like, we got it. They were motivated. We're winning this for Braden. So for me, I think as much as it's so easy to look at the Leafs and they're the big market team, I just think Tampa Bay deserves so much credit. Down 3-2 in this series, down 3-2. They allowed 2 goals late in the second period in the final minute. Unlightning of them. They found a way to come back and win in overtime. They found a way to come back in the series. To me, I think they deserve a lot of credit. I really do. I was so impressed with them last night. It's
the reason they're 2-time defending champs there, Kev.
Yep.
I think we know how good that team is. They're 2-time Cup champs. They've got Kucherov, who's a Art Ross winner. They've got Hedman, who's a Norris winner. Vasilevsky is a Vezina winner. They've got Steven Stamkos, who's had a renaissance season. Braden Point's one of the best players in the league. They've got it all. And they understand how important depth is on and bringing in players that can step up. Nick Paul.
Yep.
That being said, we mentioned a little bit earlier. I don't think this is a loss that the Leafs franchise needs to overreact to. I think you're starting to see Marner and Matthews specifically step up in playoff hockey, and it just, I think you need to rethink that blue line a little bit. I think you need to rethink the depth a little bit more. But I think they're close. As much as I hate it, they're close.
Yeah, I think to me the questions of what happened. What do you do with Sandin? What do you do with Liljegren going forward? Are they ready to take that next step? I think they need. They almost missed Nick Ritchie as much as I don't think Lyubushkin was bad, but they either need to find that forward that can get in front of the net with power, or do what Connor McDavid did, or find some extra speed. One of the two they need to address there, but they're not. To me, the Leafs would have went through it. The Leafs would have beaten the Kings. The Leafs would have beat Minnesota. I think the Leafs probably would have beaten Boston. They would have beaten Washington. They would have beaten most of these teams in the first round of the playoffs. They faced the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're not that far. They're really not. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm any Leaf fan, but just looking at this objectively, they did pretty much all that they could. The matchup was the Tampa Bay Lightning.
And they just have to continue to learn from it, I think, is what you have to do. I said, I think Giordano should be an option to come back for them next year. They've already moved on from Travis Dermott, but they also have Justin Holl, I think, is someone who's probably played his last game as a Leaf. I know John Hot Take Hockey will probably pop some champagne when that move gets made, because he's been railing on Justin Holl for pretty much the whole season, I think.
Two seasons, I think.
He's been on,
yeah.
But you've got Sandin and Liljegren need new deals. I think they're both ready to step up and play bigger roles. I think Lyubushkin was a good pickup. The thing with the Leafs is they had the players that could get in front of Vasilevsky up front. They had Bunting. They had Mikheyev. Kampf could do that. Engvall's big enough and can do that. Simmons, like Blackwell, like they had the players that can do that. They just didn't enough. Mikheyev is a UFA this offseason. That's going to be a tough contract to get for him. Kasha was a good pickup, but he's an RFA with Arbrights. Engvall's an RFA with Arbrights. Is this the last we've seen of Jason Spezza? What did they do in net? Jack Campbell played really well. I think they need to find a way to bring him back, but are they able to find a way to maybe find a way to move Peter Mrazek and clear up that cap space? Because when you're so top heavy with 3 contracts over $10 million cap hit, and Morgan Riley's now going to be making 7.5 on the cap, they don't have much wiggle room to do anything too drastic unless they decide to move one of the top players, which I don't think they should.
Yeah. 2 questions are coming to my mind. I asked Devin this. Let's go back to Justin Holl, because he took a lot of heat, not only from John, he took a lot of heat from Leaf fans and Leaf media. Would Justin Holl be a better defenseman outside of Toronto? Would he be like Tyson Barrie or a Luke Shen, where it's not, he wouldn't be a great defenseman? I'm not saying that, but he would be the type of defenseman that he's supposed to be. Like, he would find his footing and find his home.
The thing with Holl is I don't think he's that bad. I think he is a good sort of, he's right. I think Justin Holl's right on par with a lot of the defensemen we've argued about on this podcast. The good Bransons, the Shens, they're depth defensemen. That's what he is. He's been relied upon as but the thing with the Leafs is that he's been relied upon in instances too much, because that right side's a bit thin. You've got Muzzin, Riley, who are good on the left side, Rasmus Sandin can play up on that left side. If you're bringing back Giordano, that loads that up again. But then on that right side, you've got Brody, who's playing on his offside. You've got Sandin can play the right side, but that'd be his offside. Liljegren's young, but I think he could be a built-in replacement for Hall, as could Lyubushkin if they decide to bring him back. And I bet you at least Liljegren for sure will be cheaper. So I think trading Hall makes a lot of sense to clear up some cap space, and I think there should be teams lined up to pick him up, because I think he's a good depth defenseman if they've got the right setup on their blue line elsewhere. But I think they've got Nick Abruzzese coming up. Nick Robertson, can he take a next step next year? Because those would be cap breaking help for them on ELCs. So I don't know. I think they're close. I don't think this should be something that you burn it down and you're taking it down to the studs and remodeling here. I think you're just tweaking.
Yep. Maybe you get into an arms race. I don't know. It's an interesting question.
I don't know how they can get into an arms race here.
Well, I don't know how anyone in the NHL will be able to do any. The salary cap is like, I think most teams are pretty much going to be handcuffed and wait. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to just toss something out here, and I just hear me out on this before you think that this is ridiculous. John Tavares got the captaincy because there was a PR problem with Austin Matthews at the time. He was facing the allegation. He was facing that situation where in Arizona. That
was before, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure that
No,
was
it was around the same time. Because I think they were prepared. I think that they were prepared to give Austin Matthews the captaincy. And then the story came out about the incident in Arizona. And then they had to go to Tavares. My question is, I don't want to strip the captaincy away from John Tavares, because I have to look back. I don't think he was great in this series. But I wonder if it is time to change the C to either Matthews or Morgan Rielly. You're giving Morgan Rielly $7.5 million. He is willing to stay there. He did the JT Miller. He did what you've asked of JT Miller and Matthew Tkachuk. He took less to stay there. Do you switch to captaincy?
I don't. John Tavares is a good. It's the cat's the cat's out of the bag there. The horse is out of the barn. You can't at this point. In my opinion, I think you're fine with that. Let's see here. I'm just looking at. I'm pretty sure that. And the other thing is, you still have to learn how to lead. And I think Matthews is still learning that, and I still think Morgan Rielly is still learning that. And yeah, so what you're right there, Kev. It was 2019 that they named John Tavares, but I think that was already done and dusted before that came out.
Don't think it was. I think it was around the same time.
Well, no, it was the same year that it was 2019 when they named John Tavares captain, but that was also, I think they had already named him captain when everything came out about that. And remember, one of the biggest issues with that was how the Matthews family tried to hide it.
This is a good podcast in here as I'm typing on the Google. Disorderly conduct, November. It was mid-November.
And they named, and John Tavares was named, I think, in the summer, like pretty quickly after he was signed.
September 24th was when Austin Matthews was charged with disorderly conduct.
Okay.
So,
actually, they brought Tavares in 2018. He was an assistant with Marlowe and Rielly, and then they named him. They named him after that season.
Yeah.
And I think it's but yeah, I said going back to it, I don't think you do. I think that is a drastic move that is an overreaction to what is the team that's close.
Yeah, and the only reason I brought it up is that happened in San Jose. Thornton moved the captaincy on. I wondered if that was something you would look at, but I don't.
But also look at how has that turned out? San Jose hasn't really done much. They have
San Jose has been nothing since Joe Pavelski left.
So it's. I'm trying to think of how many we've seen teams move on from or rename a captain while the old captain's still being there, and LA is the only one that I think's done it and has been okay. But I don't think Kopitar was the captain when they won the cup. When they won their cups, I think it was still Dustin Brown.
It was Dustin Brown. Yeah. By the way, congratulations. We'll get to him in a second. I just think the thing with Tavares is I wonder if we're now in the point of him almost having to adapt his game to be more of an all-round guy. I know he's expected to contribute offensively, but I wonder if we're going to see a transition of what John Tavares is going to be. It's going to be hard for a lot of Leaf fans because he's making $11 million, but in order for them to win, he might have to adjust the way that he is.
He's a second line center for them, but he still put up 76 points in 79 games for them this season.
Yeah,
and he got 3 goals and 6 points and 7 in the series. So it's not like he didn't show up. I think you are going to see a bit of a decline here, and you are going to see him have to just change his role. Not his role, but his style up a little bit. But I don't think it's at least for the next year or so. I don't think it's be that significant.
No. But it's that contract where he plays. I think he is going to face, unless the Leafs move on, he will always face criticism. Just because of where he is.
Well, yeah. If you're in a hockey mad market, if you're not playing up to your contract, you're going to face criticism.
Yeah.
No matter how good you actually still are.
Yeah. Some of it is unreasonable in a lot of ways, but that's just a way of life.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't think Dubas and Keefe, I don't think you move on from them. I just think you stay the course and make a minor tweak and let this team. Let that Mitch Marner tier. We're sad that we're tired of being here. Let that sit all summer and just let it fester. Because then when you're in the playoffs next year, that fuels you.
Yeah.
And people seem to forget this. The most successful teams in the National Hockey League, the teams that have raised the Stanley Cup, have failed first before they won. And this is just another example of it. So
this isn't like the top players didn't show up too. Again,
no.
In the playoffs, you Matthews 4 goals, 9 points. Marner 2 goals, 8 points. The only one I didn't quite show up the way he kind of would have helped if he did show up a little bit better was Michael Bunting. But again, this is his first full season in the NHL.
Yeah.
He may be the oldest rookie of all time, or almost, compared to not quite. There was the Flames had Makarov.
There was Makarov. There was German Titov.
Yeah, but he still came. That's found money for them because I think he's still under contract for 1 more year, I believe, at a ridiculous rate.
Yeah.
You've got a 20-goal, 60-point winger playing. So that's found money, and that's what you need, and that's why you need someone that the names I mentioned earlier, Nick Abruzzese and Nick Robertson need to find a way to get in there and be part of that top 9, Because if they can, then that's something that can cheat code the cap here for the Leafs.
Yep. Yeah. But it was a fun series. And Tampa Bay, Florida, that's gonna be outstanding hockey. I will be watching that for sure. It'll be a lot of fun.
The two series we already know are in the second round are going to be fun to watch already.
Yeah.
And then if we can get Battle of Alberta, and then you can get either, and then it's going to be Carolina versus either the Rangers or Pittsburgh. That's still going to be a great. We're if we can get Battle of Alberta, all 4 series are going to be must watch. Honestly.
Yeah. By the way, someone nobody is talking enough about, just jump to Carolina just for one quick second. Seth Jarvis has that's one rookie we haven't given enough love to. I'm not saying he should be in the Calder Trophy, but they had him out on the last 2 minutes there. I say that because he's former WHL Portland Winterhawk, but still just the way he's played, the way he's come up this year, it's good. It's good.
And he's someone that is he was a 13th overall pick. So he's not like he was a full-blown top pick. It's why I've said it's not necessarily drafting high, it's drafting well.
Yeah.
And developing well too.
Yeah.
Because he played 9 games with the Chicago Wolves last season, and then has stepped in, put up 40 points in 68 games this year as a rookie. That's on a top tier team.
Yep.
So yeah, he's been a great a great draft pick and great development for the Hurricanes.
Yep. It's one of the most overrated things right now in hockey is the amount of draft picks teams have. One of the most underrated things talked about is development. It's how you develop. And people have criticized Tampa Bay for giving up first-round picks for Brandon Hagel, Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow. When you have a Jack Finley and a Nichu Huhtinen, I'll be having to butcher that name, coming up, and they're late-round picks, you don't worry about your first-round pick because you're drafting and developing well way later on.
They're also in a win-now situation where first-round picks are the currency of the realm to help add players to your roster to have banners that fly forever, as Devin always says.
Yeah.
And they've got 2.
Yep. Let's chat about the Oilers. They did their part. Connor McDavid. I truly think Connor McDavid listened to John Tortorella. I know that the entire Twitter was like, shut up, John. You don't know what you're talking about. I honestly think Connor McDavid took what John Tortorella said to heart, and I think he's changed his game. He played 27 minutes last night. He just took his game to another level. You got to, first of all, give him credit. That was just an unbelievable performance from him. And so first of all, give him credit. Second of all, overall, as much as criticize that Oilers defense, they did what they had to do against the Kings. And then Leon Draisaitl stepped up. And I'm sorry, the analytics stuff here with this Puljujärvi Yamamoto argument, come on. How is it not Yamamoto by a mile? Like, how is it not? Am I wrong?
Am
I watching a different?
I don't know why this needs to be a debate. You need both if you're going to go deep.
Well, no, but I guess
Yamamoto's a smaller player. Puljujärvi has the size and the ability to grind it out in more quote unquote playoff style hockey.
I noticed Yamamoto a lot more than Puljujärvi. That's just what I'm saying. Like to me, McDavid and Yamamoto seem to be a pretty good fit together, but
because what is it? What are the lines? Are they? It's
I think it's McDavid, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, McDavid, Fogle, Hyman, McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, other guy, McDavid, other guy. And then on defense, it's McDavid and Nurse, McDavid and Ceci. I'm just kidding.
Because like I said, you need them all.
I agree.
I just don't. And I'm not actually going after you. I'm going after the people who were trying to go through that whole thing. Like the Oilers media that were trying to like pick and choose and all that. I think Puljujärvi's been good. I don't think he's had I don't think he's had he hasn't shown up and won the spot yet, is what it is. He hasn't had the production that you need to be a full-blown top six guy. And just pulling up on Daily Faceoff, Draisaitl, McDavid, Yamamoto, Kane, Hopkins, Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, Archibald, McLeod, Puljujärvi, and then Fogle, Ryan, and Kassian are the lines as they went through. But we all, as you put it there, Kev, I think it with McDavid playing 27 minutes, he's rotating in on basically all those lines, anyways.
Yeah, but they got it done. I think the issue with the Kings was, Mitch was right. The defense is pretty slow, but they just didn't have enough offense they didn't have enough scoring to really threaten the Oilers ultimately in this series. I mean, Deneau, Moore, and Kaliev and Kopitar, like, they were good. They just didn't have that scorer that the Oilers really needed to worry about.
Yeah, they've got players who have the ability coming up, but Byfield only played 15 minutes in the series. Kupari played 38. Velarde played less than 20 as well, and those are your three of your big prospects, and they leaned heavily on the vets for this series. And when you don't have a true scoring threat, and you need that, and they don't quite have that yet.
Yeah. Yeah, they had good players. They just didn't have enough. But
they're gonna have some decisions to make on that blue line, because they've got a glutton of players coming up that are pushing. And you have to make a decision on a couple right there, just to see where else you can improve. You've got Stetcher came in. He played really well for them as a depth player. Mikey Anderson played really well over this year for them. He needs a new contract. Sean Dursey needs a new contract. And then you still have Jordan Spence and Tobias Bjornfot developing as well, let alone Brant Clark, Harold Granz. Like, that's they have the ammo to make a big splash and continue to improve this team. Let alone they did this without their top defenseman in Drew Doughty and Sean Walker as well, who played well for them this year.
Yeah.
So they've got ammo that they can go out and improve this team if they this offseason. I expect them to as well.
Yeah. Yeah. They will be. They're coming. They really are. They just.
I'm trying to think who could be a big name that they could go after and just throw a whack ton of prospects at the team, and to the point where they say, like, no, okay, sure, you can have them. We'll take all these futures.
Mark Scheifele?
Maybe. Yeah, Scheifele could be it.
Depends if you're if you want Barry Trotz from Winnipeg's perspective for Jean-Guy, if you want Barry Trotz, what is your intent? Is your intent to try to win, or is your intent to try to develop?
Yeah.
But and I guess the other question is Scheifele truly a fit in that dressing room? Is it time for him, no matter where you're at with this team, you want to contend or not, you got to move. You're going to have to move Scheifele because of where you're at. It's an interesting question.
The thing with the Jets too is, again, we're talking about the cap, right? And Scheifele making he's still 6.125, but Dubois needs a new deal. Appleton needs a new deal. You got to do something with that blue line. Figure out what you can do there to shake things up there. And they're all already tight to the cap. So I think if you move out Scheifele, that money can basically be earmarked for Dubois. And you've got a Cole Perfetti already there. And then if you're getting futures, you can still put together a roster that's competitive, but now you've got futures as well.
Yeah.
So even if you are going with Trotz and you're trying to compete, because if you're bringing in Trotz, you're trying to compete. You're not going into a rebuild develop mode. You're still in a win mode there if you're bringing in Trotz. So,
and you still got Connor Hellebuck, who you still have 2 years with, and he's still a top end goalie. He's
Let's going back to right at the beginning. We're talking about U.S. goaltenders. Him and Gibson will be 32 by the time the next Olympics rolls around, depending on where they're at as goalies. Which is why I think like Ottinger, you got Demko, Ottinger, Nedeljkovic, Spencer Knight, all going to be pushing to even Cal Peterson out of LA as well. All going to be pushing for that spot. Yeah. So, but LA. I honestly think this is just the starting point for LA. They've got. I'm gonna say that we're gonna see some major changes from them. I just think they've got too much ammo there to not go after a big fish in the trade market.
Yeah. And they were close. They didn't get blown out. They stayed with the Oilers. People are talking about them as the 2 worst teams in the playoffs. They got in the playoffs. That's the ultimate goal here. Who cares how you got there? You got there. I think they're a story, Dylan, but they're a step in the right direction. So, they're probably in better shape right now than Anaheim. Sorry again, Dylan. That would be my opinion. But
that blue line, that they've had players come out of the woodwork for that blue line. That was my big question going into the season, because with Drysdale there in Anaheim, I thought that was the key there. But they've traded away Hampus Lindholm and Josh Manson, so that blue line is going to look a lot different going into next season for the Ducks. But I said, you look at the dearth of defensemen that could step up. Like Jordan Spence was playing on the power play for LA. Dursey was there. They have players that they can move on to help build more depth up front, which is what they need, as well as they have got top end prospects that they can move on. They can move to maybe bring in a game breaking offensive forward.
Yep.
And again, what would this series look like if Drew Doughty was playing and was healthy?
Well, even if they were able to get a Connor Garland, right?
It's not even that. I think it's because I don't think Garland is that type of like scoring threat that they were missing. He's a good player, but
some sort of offense. I mean, they missed Victor Arvidsson. I think that was a huge loss for them as well in that series. So,
yeah, and I'll be honest, Kev. I think that Garland to LA was just noise. I don't think there was anything there at all.
I know, yeah, okay, maybe fair enough, but I know. I mean, there was talk about him. There was talk about Toffoli. I do think that they were trying to get another offensive weapon there, an offensive player there, and if they would have had it, maybe the easier way to say it, if they would have had it, it might have been easier for them to win the series.
Yeah.
That's all.
But even a healthy Arvidsson would have made a huge difference for them because he's that type of player.
Yeah, for sure. The Ducks, by the way, picked 10th in this draft lottery, which is where a lot of people are mocking some defensemen. So we'll be interested to see what the Ducks do in the first round there. But and then tonight we've got Pittsburgh Rangers. Tristan Jarry and Sidney Crosby are both in the questionable space. We could see Tristan Jarry instead of our friend the Baker Louis Domingue. No matter, okay, now, as much, I don't want to criticize Evgeny Malkin whether Crosby is there or not, and I don't think Malkin's been bad, but this is one game, we talk about how Matthew Tkachuk needs to step up. I'm not saying that Malkin's been awful, but I think Malkin, how do I say this without sounding ridiculous? I think Malkin needs to take it just one more notch. This is a big game for him. And he's coming in as a UFA, by the way.
Yeah. He's got 3 goals and 6 points in this series. So, like I said, he hasn't been horrible, but game 7 is show up and win. You show up and you find a way to make an impact. Gensel's got 7 goals in 6 games in this series. Crosby's got 9 points in 5 games in this series. Rust has had, you need to find a way if you want. I had the Rangers winning this series. I think I had them in 6. Actually, I might have had them in 7. Actually, but good. I'd be game for a one more run, one last dance, as it will, for this Penguins team.
Oh, you know how much I enjoy Crosby. Jake Gensel.
The ultimate Mark Donk.
Yeah.
For those who don't get it, it was like back in the day, you'd have Crosby and just this rotation of wingers, and every time whatever winger they'd get would put up points and get goals. Which is why I was looking at one of the best. He makes players on his line better. Crosby does, and to a point that I don't think we appreciate that enough. And there's no one that does that better than Crosby.
Not right now, no. It's different with McDavid because
I don't think that McDavid even does that.
No. This is going to sound horrible how I say it, but McDavid is selfish. But I think
but in a good way.
In a good way, yeah, in a very good way. It's a compliment when I say it. He wants to drive the play. I think Crosby wants to bring everybody in. That's just his style. But
the thing is, McDavid relies on his speed to create the offense. While Crosby relies more on his vision and his ability to grind out plays. And when you do that, you're going to suck defensemen in and open up space for your line mates. And that's what makes him special.
Yeah.
Well, McDavid is just, when he's on, he's driving the net hard with his speed and his stick handling, and he's just creating offense individually. You're right. It is selfish, but in a very good way.
Yeah.
Because you look at his line mates, right? McDavid's line mates, they never seem to put up the numbers that Crosby's line mates do. Why we just went through it. We were talking about who's the better fit in Yamamoto and Puljujarvi. Neither of them grabbed the brass ring of being his line mate.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't think when we talk about McDavid, we talk about, and again, I want to be careful because I'm not criticizing McDavid, but passing isn't one of the things he's known for. Whereas Gretzky, Lemieux, Crosby, those guys are more known for passing. McDavid was more known for speed. And that's not to say that McDavid's a terrible passer. Don't stop, Jim. I know you want to tweet me, retweet something already here. Just stop. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just pointing out that that's not what he's known for.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's Ken Shesterkin. Steal it for the Rangers. And Zibanejad had one hell of a game on Friday night. I can't that's we talk I'm out of Calgary. You're a Flames fan, Kev. We're definitely focused in on the on Game 7 here in Calgary tonight, but that Pittsburgh Rangers Game 7 is going to be a barn burner. That's been the best series of
I agree
of the first round, and it's not even close.
No, yeah, I agree. That's been the best series. The most disappointing series I have to say was St. Louis, Minnesota. I was just expecting none of the games were close, and I was expecting it to go 7, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, the only thing that separates the Flames and Dallas series and the St. Louis one is that the Flames and Dallas series has been close.
Yeah,
and we are getting 7 games out of it.
But and maybe I'm just I'm invested in that one. Obviously, I wasn't invested in St. Louis and Minnesota, but I was so intrigued by it because that just seemed like such a good matchup. But didn't happen. Anything else we need to get into?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right. Well, we should be back tomorrow, either in tears or in joy. We'll figure that out. Just keep an eye on our Twitter. I just think we'll have to probably determine our schedule somehow. We'll work it out. I think that's the easiest way to put that. But we'll be back to recap Game 7 Flame Stars and get ourselves ready for the second round, however it happens. How do we follow you?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
Devin Gordhouse09. Give him a follow, give him a hug. It's been yesterday was a tough day for sure for him, as you know, hockey wise. Christian Schneids, SCHNEIDZ. Tyler TNOBLE. He took some heat on Twitter. Poor guy with his McDavid takes, but he wasn't wrong. He just had an observation. I am KVOLE. Shifts and Pucks, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, audio. Subscribe wherever you get your audio. Give us a like. Give us a follow. Area 51 Sports Network. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. Deep breath, everyone. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.